Hello and welcome. Throughout human history, whenever life becomes suffocating, stressful, or broken, we're gripped by a universal instinct, the urge to escape. We tell ourselves, if only I worked at a different company, or if only I lived in a different city with different neighbors, or in a different community, then I would finally find peace. We imagine that peace is a matter of geography, that if we change our zip code or our surroundings, our inner chaos will vanish. 1500 years ago, in the late 4th and 5th centuries, a group of seekers known as the Desert Abbas and Ammas, that is, the Desert Fathers and Mothers, left the bustling cities of the Roman Empire and they retreated into the harsh Egyptian wilderness. They believed that by stripping away worldly noise, they would find quietness of soul. Yet, as they sat alone in their stone cells, surrounded by nothing but sand and silence, they stumbled upon an inconvenient truth. The desert did not silence their anger, pride, or restlessness. In fact, without the distractions of the city, their inner turmoil roared even louder. One of the great desert mothers, Amma Theodora of Alexandria, she preserved a brief story about this realization. It is a deceptively simple parable about a monk, a pair of sandals, and an unexpected stranger. The story begins in a desert monastery. There was a young monk who felt utterly miserable. Day after day, he found himself annoyed by his fellow brothers. He complained about the climate, the rules, the work, and the petty friction of daily life. The distress inside his chest grew so heavy that he convinced himself that the monastery was toxic. It was corrupt and unbearable. Sitting on his narrow bench in his solitary cell, he threw his hands in the air and declared, "I cannot endure this place for another hour. I'm packing my belongings and leaving." Determined to find peace elsewhere, he reached down to the floor, picked up his worn leather sandals, and began strapping them on his feet. As he pulled the laces tight, he noticed a shadow move in another part of his cell. He looked up, startled. Sitting in the dim light was a stranger, a figure sitting on a bench, holding his own pair of leather sandals, calmly tying them around his ankles. Confused and alarmed, the monk asked, "Who are you, and what are you doing in my cell?" The figure looked up, smiled faintly, and replied, "Are you leaving here because of me? Well, then know this: wherever you go, I will be there before you." In the monastic tradition, the mysterious stranger in the corner was often interpreted as a demon or a manifestation of the monk's own dark mood. But psychologically, the stranger represents something far more personal. It is the shadow of our own unexamined self. Notice what the stranger said: "Wherever you go, I will be there before you." The monk thought that he was fleeing an external problem. He thought that the monastery was the source of his misery. But the stranger revealed that his misery was not in the stone walls or in his fellow monks. It was inside of his own person. Wherever he traveled, he would unpack the exact same restlessness, the very same quick temper, and the very same discontent. This story highlights three timeless insights. First is the geographical illusion. The Roman philosopher Seneca once wrote, "Why do you wonder that globe-trotting does not help you, seeing that you take yourself along on every journey?" Changing our physical location changes our scenery, but it does not change our character. And then there's carrying the shadow. When we abandon relationships, jobs, or communities, the moment friction arises, we usually end up recreating the exact same conflicts in our next destination. We carry our unhealed wounds like baggage, waiting to be opened at the next stop. And then there's the discipline of stabilitas, stability. The desert Abbas and Ammas preached a radical discipline called stabilitas, the decision to stay put in your cell, your community, or your commitment when things become difficult. They had a famous saying, sit in your cell, and your cell will teach you everything. In other words, staying present forces us to stop blaming our environment and finally do the painful, transformative work of inner healing. As we reflect on this ancient desert parable, it leaves us with a penetrating question for our modern lives. When you feel the overwhelming urge to burn bridges, quit, or run away from a situation, pause and look down at your sandals. Ask yourself, are you running toward authentic growth and wisdom, or are you simply trying to outrun the companion sitting in the corner of your cell? If the problem is inside of us, no destination on earth is going to be far enough to escape it. But if we have the courage to take off our shoes, to sit down, to face ourselves, true peace can begin right where we stand.